Effective, Kiesza, Director of the Light. The air in the briefing room, a hastily repurposed storage area within the precarious sanctuary we designated the Point, was thick, with the usual miasma of barely contained chaos that seemed to cling to Provisional Task Force Alpha 7, or as they preferred, the SCAR KREW. I stood before them, the flickering holo-display casting my features in cool, analytical light, a stark contrast to the heated unprofessionalism unfolding before me. Subject the Obsidian Blade and Subject Shadow Fang were engaged in a rather blatant display of public affection in the corner, a tangle of dark clothing and what I could only describe as grim urgency. It was as if they believed the world's imminent collapse hinged on the intensity of their current entanglement. My internal archives offered no precedent for such behavior in a mission briefing, but then, little about this unit adhered to standard operational parameters. Their codenames alone were a testament to a certain flair for the dramatic. Florence, or Lyricannon as she styled herself, perched on a stack of ration crates, her voice cutting through the Blade and Fang's distraction. So, Director K, what fresh hell are we diving into today? Got a new brand of existential dread you want us to sample? Maybe something pumpkin spice flavored for the season? Her Brooklyn accent, laced with a dark humor that was perhaps a necessary coping mechanism in this blighted San Francisco, was as sharp as the purple streaks in her hair. Only Subject Black Samson, his imposing frame a study in stoic discipline, met my gaze directly, a data slate in hand, diligently taking notes. His recently acquired, modern samurai woo-wear, a peculiar fusion of ancient tradition and urban grit in hues of gold, black, and brown, was yet another adaptation in this ever-mutating landscape. Your levity, as always, is noted, Florence, I stated, my voice even, betraying none of the clinical detachment I felt. The current priority involves the SCAR genesis phenomenon. Our long-range scans and preliminary field reports indicate the emergence of multiple new biological entities, uniquely adapted to the altered energetic environment of this city. I gestured to the holo display, which now showed flickering images of grotesque, misshapen creatures, the flora and fauna of a world remade by nightmare. My primary objective for this sortie is the acquisition of viable biological samples from at least 3 distinct new species. We need to understand their physiology, their connection to the SCAR genesis flow, and their potential threat vectors. A scoff from the corner. The Obsidian Blade had momentarily disengaged, his fanged mask turned towards me, though Shadow Fang remained practically fused to his side. Blood samples? Director, with all due respect, which ain't much, this city's trying to eat itself. We're playing whack-a-mole with reality-bending psychos and mutated freaks. You want us to play veterinarian to some glow-in-the-dark pigeons while Frisco burns? My objectives are not request, Blade, I countered, my tone hardening slightly. The pragmatic necessity of understanding this new, horrifying ecosystem was paramount. Knowledge was the first weapon against any threat. The data these samples will provide is crucial for the Light's broader strategy of mitigating the SCAR genesis threat on a larger scale. Florence chimed in, yeah, but CK, the locals ain't exactly thrilled with the current management. Word on the street is there's a full-blown turf war kicking off. Hard to get to your mutant petting zoo when the zookeepers are busy carving each other up. Samson finally spoke, his voice a low rumble. The operative's assessment is consistent with my own observations, Director. Multiple factions are vying for dominance. The city is a patchwork of contested territories. Securing samples will be challenging if these conflicts are not addressed. I had anticipated this, of course. Their focus was, as always, on the immediate, the visceral, the fight. And in this instance, their crude desire for confrontation aligned with a more pressing strategic reality. Indeed, I conceded, the holodisplay shifting again, this time to a tactical map of San Francisco, overlaid with angry, pulsing red zones. Your enthusiasm for direct engagement will be sated. Intelligence confirms 3 primary hostile groups have established significant strongholds and are actively engaged in a multi-front turf war, tearing what little stability remains in this city to shreds. The names appeared on the screen, each a known variable of chaos, the Court of Contradictions. Intel suggested May and her entourage of paradox wielders were carving out a domain of pure, unpredictable madness. The SCAR Genesis Legion, likely remnants of the old Legion, now warped and empowered by the very energies they perhaps sought to control, their objectives unknown but undoubtedly hostile. The Legion, remnants, other splinter cells of the original organization, perhaps less mutated but no less dangerous, likely seeing the chaos as an opportunity. A predatory gleam entered Blade's visible eye. Fang pulled back slightly, her crimson-highlighted Oni markings almost seeming to pulse in anticipation. Lyricannon let out a low whistle. Now that's a party. So you're saying we get to crash it? Precisely, I affirmed. My own research, my own desperate quest for the Genesis flow, had been born from witnessing the devastation of unchecked forces. These factions, in their mindless aggression, were creating a symphony of suffering, a chaotic resonance that could very well amplify the Scar Genesis itself. This turf war is not just a local inconvenience. It's a destabilizing factor of significant magnitude. Before we can effectively implement any broader scientific or reclamation efforts, this conflict must be pacified. The strongholds must be dismantled. I let the weight of that sink in. Their desire to fight, to reclaim, was a raw, potent force. My purpose was to channel it, to direct their destructive capabilities towards an outcome that served the greater, albeit grim, calculus of our survival. Your new primary objective, I stated, my gaze sweeping over each of them, even the still distracted pair in the corner, is to systematically disrupt and neutralize these factional strongholds. Break their hold on their territories. End this turf war. Only then can we begin the more delicate work. The Blade actually smirked beneath his mask. So you do want us to go kick some ass after all. Your terminology is crude, Blade. But the sentiment in this specific context is not entirely inaccurate. Consider it a necessary prelude to the scientific imperatives. The ends, as I had learned through agonizing loss and relentless pursuit, often necessitated means that were anything but pristine. And this SCAR KREW, for all their volatility and insubordination, were undeniably effective instruments in the face of overwhelming grotesque force. This city needed a reset, a violent tearing down before any new light, however faint, could hope to break through the scars. Chapter 2. Crossover Beats and Strategic Freaks. Take 2. Perspective. Kiesza, Director of the Light. The Point, our tenuous foothold in the festering wound that was San Francisco, had become an impromptu receiving station for a fresh batch of assets. The term assets felt generous. More accurately, it was a collection of highly specialized, deeply idiosyncratic, and likely combustible personalities. The existing SCAR KREW Blade, Fang, Lyricannon, and Samson, along with my own operatives, Renseto and Dr. Evelyn Reed, who'd been assisting them post-Twin Peaks, were already a delicate ecosystem of barely managed chaos. Adding more variables was a calculated risk, a necessary one. Blade and Fang were observing the new arrivals with the wary stillness of predators assessing unfamiliar creatures encroaching on their territory. Lyricannon predictably was already sizing them up, a glint in her eye that promised either recruitment to her particular brand of anarchic camaraderie or relentless mockery. Samson stood apart, a pillar of calm observation, though his gaze lingered on the Guardians with a flicker of recognition I couldn't quite place. Renseto was fussing over a field analysis kit, probably anxious about the integrity of his data in the face of so much unpredictable energy. Dr. Reed, ever the empath, simply offered a welcoming, if slightly strained, smile to the newcomers. The first of the reinforcements, the Guardians of the Timeline, were making their presence known. Kronos, the masked, temporal entity, stood with an unnerving stillness that seemed to warp the air around him. He was currently listening, if such a term applied, to Lyricannon's rapid-fire, slang-laden assessment of the local faction leaders. So this unraveler cat from the contradiction court? Mad sus, yo. Like, his whole vibe screams I got trust issues with, like, Tuesdays. And the Rust Prophet? Dude needs to exfoliate and get a hobby that ain't turning the city into a scrap heap. Total downer. Kronos, to his credit, simply tilted his head, perhaps processing the dialectical variables. Tempest, the other Guardian, was a stark contrast. A vibrant, crackling bundle of temporal energy, currently examining a piece of star-twisted rebar with the intense focus of a hummingbird assessing a particularly complex flower. This timeline degradation, she mused aloud, it's got a real, zesty instability. Almost makes you want to punch it back into shape. Then came the outcasts, a delightful study in contrast themselves. Ronin Sato, the outcast Sato, a distinction I would need to hammer into the mission logs to avoid confusing him with my more stable operative Ren, was already subtly casing the room, his charming smile doing little to hide the assessing glint in his eyes. He caught Dr. Reed's welcoming gaze and amplified his charm. A pleasure to be working with such enlightened individuals, Doctor. One hopes to offer a unique perspective on problem solving. Dr. Reed, bless her compassionate nature, simply nodded, though I saw her subtly check the security of her medkit. Alasdair Al Finch, the other outcast, was having an intense one-sided conversation with the support beam. Your right angles are an affront to dimensional harmony, he hissed, but the subtle curve near the base, intriguing. Is that intentional, or merely the product of sloppy foundational settling? My new light operatives, the Gen Flow specialists for this assignment, were attempting to integrate. Dr. Eris Thorne, my neurolinguist, was observing the interactions with the quiet intensity of a naturalist discovering a new species of profoundly loud and potentially dangerous primate. He seemed particularly fascinated by Lyricannon's vernacular. Marcus Mark Sterling, a psychic sentinel whose calm demeanor was usually a reassuring presence, looked as if his mental shields were getting a vigorous workout just from the ambient psychic noise of the assembled group. Finally, the keepers from the Oracle Network. Lyra Lix, a being of iridescent scales and seemingly boundless enthusiasm, was currently attempting to explain the multiversal resonance of a half-eaten ration bar to Black Samson. You see, Samurai Dude, even this discarded nutrient paste has, like, an echo. It's traveled, it's been part of a system, it's got stories. Samson, ever patient, was listening with polite gravity. Jackson, Lyra's cybernetically augmented colleague, merely scanned the ration bar with a detached optical sensor. Nutritional value, negligible. Probability of containing transdimensional contaminants, 6.7%. Attention! My voice cut through the eclectic buzz. As you were briefed, your arrival is to bolster our efforts in reclaiming this city from the 3 primary factions currently engaged in a destructive turf war. The tactical map illuminated, showcasing the territories of the Court of Contradictions, the SCAR Genesis Legion, and the Legion Remnants. Lyricannon smirked. So, Party Central, Party Pooper Central, and Party like it's 1999, but with more Despair Central. Got it. How we divvying up these dance cards, Kay? Team assignments have been formulated to maximize operational synergy, I stated, the dryness in my tone entirely intentional. Team Alpha, your target is the Court of Contradictions. Their reality-distorting capabilities require a flexible approach. Blade, you will lead. Al Finch, your unique perceptual abilities will be vital in navigating their illogical territory. Tempest, your temporal disruption capabilities will be your primary offensive tool. Jackson, your skills in predicting anomalies and navigating unstable realities will be crucial for infiltration and extraction. Blade nodded curtly, eyeing Al Finch with a mixture of suspicion and something that might have been grudging respect for his sheer weirdness. Tempest grinned, a spark of temporal energy dancing on her fingertips. Jackson gave a single, affirming nod. Team Bravo, you will engage the SCAR Genesis Legion. Expect heavily mutated hostiles and unpredictable SCAR flow manifestations. Samson, your stability and flow mastery will anchor this team. You are joined by Marcus Sterling. Your psychic shields will be essential against potential mental assaults from SCAR-empowered entities. Ronan Sato, your particular talents for manipulation may find purchase in disrupting their cohesion. Dr. Reed, your healing abilities and experience with the SCAR Krew will provide vital support. Samson inclined his head. Sterling met Ronan's gaze with a calm, unwavering look that seemed to subtly say, try anything, and you'll be picking your id out of your subconscious for a week. Ronan just smiled charmingly. Team Charlie, your objective is the Legion, Remnants. These are old guard, likely entrenched and operating with established military doctrine. Lyricannon, your sonic abilities and urban warfare expertise are key. You will be supported by Dr. Eris Thorne, whose linguistic analysis will be critical for intelligence gathering. Kronos, your strategic oversight of temporal patterns and established Legion tactics will provide a significant advantage. Lyricannon shot a grin at Eris. All right, Doc. Ready to translate some old fart fascist manifestos into actionable intel? It's gonna be literally, if I have my way. Eris Thorne adjusted his glasses, a flicker of academic excitement in his eyes. Kronos remained, as ever, a figure of profound temporal stillness. Team Delta, this unit will focus on mobile reconnaissance, high-value asset retrieval, specifically those biological samples and live-flow dynamic analysis. Fang, your stealth and combat proficiency are paramount. You're with Ren Sato. His technical expertise and flow disruption tools are vital for sample handling and analysis. Lyra, your portal generation will provide access to otherwise inaccessible or compromised zones for these objectives. Fang nodded, her focus absolute. Ren Sato gave a thumbs up, already checking his portable scanner. Lyra bounced. Interdimensional specimen hunt. My favorite kind of treasure hunt. The air crackled with a new energy. A chaotic, unpredictable, yet undeniably potent fusion of disparate talents and volatile personalities. This was not the precise, ordered methodology of the light as I had envisioned it. This was something else. A wild, discordant symphony perhaps, but one I would conduct. You have your assignments, I concluded. Gear up. The city isn't going to liberate itself. And judging by the collection of freaks, geniuses, and walking disasters arrayed before me, the process was going to be anything but boring. Okay, so Director K, in her infinite wisdom, decided I was leader material for this particular suicide squad. Team Alpha, she called us. Sounds like a damn battery brand. But hey, if they want the Obsidian Blade in charge, they're gonna get the full experience. That means pep talks laced with existential dread and tactical plans that have a 50-50 chance of either working brilliantly or getting us all turned into abstract lawn ornaments. First up, a little sightseeing trip to Twin Peaks, home of the Court of Contradictions and their reality-bending timeshare. Chapter 3, Twin Peaks Redemption, or just more peaks. Perspective, the Obsidian Blade. All right, alphas, huddle up, I barked, trying out my best inspirational leader voice. It probably came out sounding like a gargoyle with a hangover, but you gotta commit to the bit, right? We were crouched in some god's-forsaken reality-optional gully about half a click from the summit of Twin Peaks. The air up here already tasted like a paradox smoothie. A little bit of yesterday, a dash of what the hell is that, and a lingering aftertaste of, you're probably hallucinating this. My team. What a glorious collection of freaks. Tempest, our resident guardian spark plug, was practically vibrating out of her boots, her eyes darting around like she was expecting the laws of physics to jump out and mug her. So Boss Blade, she chirped, what's the ETA on the boom boom? My temporal knuckles are getting itchy for some percussive timeline adjustments. Patience, Sparky, I said, adjusting my fanged mask. This ain't a demolition derby. This is reconnaissance. We observe, we report, we try not to get our brains scrambled into omelets by whatever non-Euclidean nonsense those court clowns are cooking up. Jackson, what are your fancy keeper eyeballs telling you? Jackson, our stoic, cybernetically enhanced anomaly forecaster, was scanning the peak with an unnerving lack of expression. Energy signatures are erratic, Captain. Their voice was calm, almost mechanical. High concentrations of chronotin particles, localized spatial distortions, and a significant probability of acute cognitive dissonance for any carbon-based life forms attempting direct interface. So business as usual for this crap-old city, I grunted. Al, you seeing any of your, offensive geometry up there? Al Finch, our outcast connoisseur of all things structurally unsound in the fabric of reality, was tilting his head like a confused bird. The apex, it sings a discordant chord, Captain. The angles are aggressively suggestive. They imply staircases that lead to Tuesdays and windows that gaze upon the color of regret. It's aesthetically volatile, right? Tuesday staircases and regret windows. Super helpful, Al. I pulled out the light-issued imager. HQ wants pretty pictures of the freak show's main stage. So we creep, we peek, and nobody licks any glowing rocks. Got it? Tempest pouted. No licking? But what if it's raspberry-flavored reality? Then you can lick it after we confirm it won't turn your tongue into a sentient pretzel. I shot back. Leader's orders. Now let's move. Jackson, point. Al, you're on weird shit alert. Tempest, try not to break time unless I say so. And try to look like you're having a bad time. Blending in, you know. Getting closer was like wading through invisible jello that occasionally whispered your deepest insecurities. The path kept trying to become other things. A flight of stairs, a water slide, a philosophical argument about the nature of pathness. Standard court bullshit. Captain, Jackson reported, zero optical sensors focused on a structure near the summit that shimmered like heat haze over a lie. I am detecting a significant energy conduit leading into that central edifice. Its design is non-standard and likely very, very unstable. Non-standard how? I pressed. snapping a few pics of the wobbly building that looked like it was trying to escape its own architecture. These were going straight to Kiesza, with the caption, "Wish you weren't here. The power source appears to be conceptual, Captain," Jackson stated. As in, it's powered by abstract thought, belief, or perhaps pure weaponized irony. Irony? We're gonna get killed by irony? Tempest sounded almost excited. That's actually kinda hilarious. Focus, Sparky. We got to a vantage point overlooking what passed for their main stronghold, a twisted amalgamation of Victorian gingerbread, impossible angles, and what looked like a half-digested radio tower. Okay, kids, what are we seeing? Al was practically vibrating. The resonance, it's a symphony of structural impossibilities. That central tower, it doesn't just defy gravity, Captain. It actively mocks it. And within, the internal geometries are a cacophony of beautiful wrongness. Can you see inside, Al? I asked. Any weaponized irony lying around? Al squinted. There's a core. A nexus of focused contradiction. It pulses, Captain. It pulses with the intent to unconvince. Before I could ask him to elaborate on the psychobabble, Tempest, who had climbed a particularly unstable-looking outcrop for a better view, hissed, Blade? You might want to see this. And maybe tell me not to blow it up immediately. I joined her, Jackson gliding silently beside me. Inside the most stable-looking, which wasn't saying much, part of the stronghold, visible through a wall that occasionally decided to become translucent, was something. It wasn't a gun, not a bomb, not in the way meatheads understood such things. It was a machine, if you could call it that. A swirling vortex of light and shadow, of whispers and screams, of symbols that made your teeth ache just looking at them. It was anchored by what looked like massive, crystalline tuning forks that vibrated with that same unconvincing energy Al had mentioned. Jackson? I prompted. The energy readings are off scale, Captain. Their voice was, for the first time, tinged with something that might have been actual concern. If that device activates, or if it's destabilized by, say, a massive external explosion, the resulting ontological cascade could unravel the local reality matrix. Not just Twin Peaks, potentially a significant portion of the Bay Area. Unravel the... So you're saying if we blow this popsicle stand, it takes a chunk of California with it? I clarified. This was a wrinkle, a big, ugly, we are so screwed wrinkle. Kiesza is not gonna like that in the PowerPoint presentation. Tempest looked crestfallen. So no boom boom? No boom boom, Tempest, I sighed, sending images to Kiesza with a terse note. Objective C4 optional is now C4. Absolutely the hell not. Found their big, bad unmaker machine. Thoughts? Well, this complicates our kick in the door and break their toys approach, I said, rubbing my temples under the mask. If we can't blow it up, and we can't just waltz in there without getting our perceptions turned into a Mobius strip souffle by May and her merry band of mindbenders. Al Finch suddenly perked up. The irony, Captain. It's so deliciously prevalent. They weaponize illogic, yes? Yeah, Al, we're clear on the reality is their bitch part. Then perhaps, Al said, a manic gleam in his eyes, the most illogical, most contradictory course of action would be the most effective? An idea sparked. A stupid, reckless, probably suicidal idea. The kind of idea that made my bipolar flow hum with a dangerous sort of glee. The kind of idea a leader comes up with when the sensible options have all packed their bags and left for a more stable dimension. Al, I said slowly, a grin spreading under my mask. I think you and I are on the same wavelength of beautiful, beautiful stupidity. Tempest? Jackson. How do you two feel about crashing a tea party with the most offensively logical, mind-numbingly boring, and utterly predictable weapon we can possibly imagine? Tempest blinked. Boring? Predictable? Blade, are you feeling okay? Did you lick a weird rock? Trust your captain, Sparky, I said, clapping her on the shoulder. If these court clowns get their jollies from chaos and contradiction, we're gonna give them something that'll make their brains seize up from sheer, unadulterated sense. I started outlining the plan. It was nuts. It was insane. It was probably going to get us all killed in a new and interesting way. But damn, being the leader of Team Alpha was starting to be fun. Chapter 4. The Rust and the Rage. A Samurai's Survey. Perspective. Black Samson. The path of a warrior is often walked in silence, each step a meditation, each breath a centering of the spirit. The path director Kiesza had set for Team Bravo, however, was accompanied by the rhythmic clang of rusted metal groaning in the bay wind and the unsettlingly cheerful hum of Ronin Sato as he assessed the, quote, prime real estate for a hostile takeover. Our objective, the Dogpatch District, now a festering heartland of the so-called SCAR Genesis Legion. A legion not of disciplined soldiers, but of corrupted flesh and twisted flow. Maintain awareness, I stated, my voice calm, a counterpoint to the cacophony of urban decay. The energies here are volatile, unpredictable. The air itself felt thick, tainted with the metallic tang of old industry and the cloying sweetness of unnatural growth. Buildings stood like hollowed-out behemoths, their steel bones picked clean by rust, yet festooned with pulsing bioluminescent scar growths that throbbed with a sickly light. Marcus Sterling, our psychic sentinel from the light, moved with a focused grace, his eyes scanning not just the physical realm, but the psychic emanations that clung to this place like a shroud. The ambient mental static is considerable, Samson, he reported, his tone even. Echoes of pain, fear, and something else. A directing intelligence, perhaps, but corrupted, feral. His mental shields were likely already engaged, a silent fortress against the unseen. Dr. Reed, her expression a mixture of clinical concern and profound sadness, was taking readings with her medical scanner. The SCAR mutations in this sector appeared to be accelerating tissue degradation while simultaneously forcing aberrant regeneration. The biosignatures are a contradiction. She had seen much with the SCAR crew, yet the pervasive nature of this corruption still weighed upon her, as it did upon us all. Ronin Sato, the outcast whose presence was a constant test of my own equilibrium, was regrettably enjoying himself. He ran a hand along a wall where rusted pipes had been forcibly merged with throbbing, vein-like tendrils of scar tissue. Resourceful, aren't they? He mused, a predatory gleam in his eyes. No respect for zoning laws, but you have to admire the commitment to aggressive expansion. This area has potential. His brand of potential usually involved exploiting weaknesses and turning chaos to his advantage. A useful tool, perhaps, but one that required careful observation. Our purpose here is not admiration, Ronin, but assessment and neutralization, I reminded him gently. My gaze swept the derelict warehouses of Pier 70, the metallic shriek of tearing structures, and an unnerving, rhythmic chittering echoed from within the gloom. They are repurposing the remnants of the old world, fueling their growth with its decay. And they've got lousy taste in exterior design, Ronin quipped, gesturing towards a crude barricade fashioned from fused shipping containers in glistening, pulsating organic matter. Seriously, who pairs rusted corrugated iron with pulsating purple slime? Tacky. Focus on tactical weaknesses, Ronin, Sterling interjected, his voice a calm admonishment. Aesthetics are secondary to survival. Ah, but my dear Sterling, Ronin countered with a sly smile, is not the greatest weakness an egregious lack of style? It speaks to a chaotic, undisciplined mind. Easy to fracture, no? I chose not to engage in their philosophical debate. My senses were attuned to the flow, and here it was a tormented, raging current. The SCAR Genesis Legion was not merely occupying this territory, they were becoming it, merging with the industrial blight, drawing power from the very corruption they spread. We observed them from a derelict gantry crane. Figures, once human, now horribly augmented. Some bore crudely grafted weaponry, fused directly into their flesh. Others were swollen with tumorous growths that pulsed with dark energy. Their movements were jerky, yet possessed of a terrifying, unnatural strength. They communicated in guttural clicks and hisses, a debased form of language that mirrored the degradation of their forms. They appear to be fortifying the central warehouse complex, Dr. Reed observed, her voice low. The concentration of SCAR energy is highest there. It's like a nest that requires cleansing, I affirmed. My hand rested on the hilt of my katana. The battle ahead would be grim. These were not honorable warriors, but victims of a profound corruption, twisted into instruments of rage and unmaking. Yet a warrior faces what is before him, without flinching, without despair. Sterling, can you ascertain the nature of their command structure from the psychic residue? I asked. He closed his eyes for a moment, his brow furrowed. It is fractured, more like a hive mind, driven by a dominant, aggressive impulse. There are nodes of higher psychic energy, likely alpha predators, but no singular commander in the traditional sense. Their thoughts are a torrent of rage, hunger, and a twisted sense of belonging to the SCAR. Ronin chuckled softly. No single commander? Just a bunch of angry, mutated thugs led by the biggest, ugliest mutant on the block? Sounds like every dive bar brawl I've ever instigated. This'll be fun. Fun is not the objective, Ronan, I stated, though a small part of me understood his dark appreciation for the raw, untamed nature of the conflict. Dr. Reed, assess their physical vulnerabilities based on the observed mutations. Ronan, Sterling, identify any patterns in their patrols, any exploitable routines in their aggression. My role was clear: to be the calm center of this storm, to absorb the chaos, to find the point of balance, and to direct the unique, if often unsettling, talents of my team towards the singular purpose of restoring a measure of sanity to this blighted land. The Rust Prophet and his maw of entropy sought to accelerate decay. The Court of Contradictions aimed to shatter stable reality. This Scar Genesis Legion, however, seemed to embody a horrifying fusion, decay and aberrant creation, a force that consumed and rebuilt in its own grotesque image. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but the first step in any battle is to understand the terrain and the nature of the foe. And here, in the heart of the rust and the rage, Team Bravo would begin its work. Considerable, Samson, he reported. Chapter 5, Presidio Rhythm, Old Dogs, New Tricks, and My Kinda Party. Perspective, Lyricannon, leader of Team Charlie, mistress of mouthiness. Aight so boom, Team Charlie, I said, keeping my voice low as we creep through the overgrown, eerie quiet of what used to be a fancy park approaching the Presidio. Lesson number 3, in Advanced Brooklynese for beginners who might get shanked by a reality anomaly, the term deadass. Now this ain't about no donkey ghost, capiche? Dr. Eris Thorne, my light-assigned linguistics nerd, was scribbling furiously in his notepad, his brow furrowed in academic ecstasy. Fascinating. So deadass can function as an emphatic affirmation, a declaration of absolute sincerity, or even a rhetorical question implying disbelief, depending on tonal modulation and contextual cues. You deadass got it, Doc. I grinned. See? You're a natural. Now, Kronos, my timeless, faceless friend, your turn. If I say, these Legion remnant clowns are deadass about to get their wig split, what am I conveying? Kronos, who looked like a walking statue carved from Midnight and Old Secrets, tilted his masked head. The air around him seemed to shimmer, like time itself was holding its breath. The assertion implies a high probability of imminent, forceful, and likely catastrophic cranial impact upon the designated hostile entities, he intoned, his voice sounding like 1,000 ancient clocks ticking in unison. Word. See, Eris? Even the walking temporal anomaly gets it. You guys are going to be fluent in fluent Brooklyn rage before this turf war is over. Passing the time. You know, team bonding. Leader style. Kiesza said, synergistic potential. Page 22. I figured if we were going to die together, we might as well understand each other's trash talk. Our target, the Legion remnants, hold up in the Presidio. Page 23. Kiesza's intel painted them as old-school hardliners, probably polishing their World War II helmets and singing dusty old fascist anthems. Expect entrenched traditionalists, she'd said. Honey, was she in for a damn update? We found a good vantage point overlooking one of their main access points, an old coastal battery emplacement that looked like it had been given a serious high-tech makeover. And when I say high-tech, I mean this wasn't your grandpa's Legion. Whoa, hold up, I muttered, focusing my sonic rig's enhanced optical sensors. Eris, Kronos, you guys seeing this? The entrenched traditionalists were swarming, all right, but they weren't wearing no moth-eaten fatigues. These cats were decked out in sleek, black combat armor that pulsed with faint energy signatures. Plasma rifles, sonic dampeners, personal cloaking fields. The works. This wasn't some forgotten platoon. This was a damn well-equipped 25th century private army. Eris adjusted his glasses. The energy signatures emanating from their weaponry and armor are remarkably advanced, considerably beyond standard Legion remnants' typical technological level. This suggests access to a sophisticated and recent supply chain, or an internal R&D capability previously uncatalogued. No kidding, Doc, I said, sweeping my sensors. And check this out. 3 squads were mobilizing near a reinforced bunker entrance. Each squad was a mix of these high-tech goons and, get this, individuals who were definitely rocking some serious flow. One group had a dude literally crackling with electrical energy. Another had a woman who seemed to be bending shadows around her. And the third was led by someone who moved with that telltale shimmer of a speed-based flow user. They're deploying teams, Kronos observed, his usually impassive voice tinged with something that might have been surprise, if a being made of time could be surprised. 3 distinct units, each comprised of conventional troops and flow-augmented operatives. Their dispersal vectors suggest coordinated targeting of multiple sectors within the city. I let out a low whistle. Well, ain't that a coinky-dink? Looks like these Legionnaire wannabes had the same bright idea as Director K. 3 teams of their own flow-using freaks and geeks, plus goons, heading out to paint the town red. My sensors picked up a 4th, smaller contingent digging in around the bunker complex, and they left 1 crew at home to mind the store. Smart. This changed things. This wasn't going to be about outsmarting a bunch of has-beens stuck in the past. This was going to be a full-on, high-tech, flow-powered throwdown. The intel about them being old school was dead-ass wrong. Aris was already analyzing their comms chatter, his fingers flying over his datapad. Their communication is heavily encrypted, but the burst patterns indicate a sophisticated command and control network. They are not merely remnants. They are a revitalized, technologically proficient force. So Kiesza's old dogs learned some new nasty tricks, I said, a wide grin spreading across my face. And they're looking to play rough. This ain't gonna be some quiet little sneak and peek, fellas. Kronos looked at me, or at least, his mask was pointed in my general direction. The tactical parameters have shifted significantly, Lyricannon. The threat level is elevated. Elevated? I laughed. This sounds sharp and eager. Honey, it just got interesting. This ain't no dusty museum tour anymore. This is a goddamn block party, and everyone's bringing their loudest toys. This turf war is gonna be loud, it's gonna be messy, and dead-ass. It's gonna be fun. Aris looked up from his datapad, a slight frown on his face. The term fun seems contextually incongruous with the potential for widespread destruction and loss of life, Lyricannon. Ah, lighten up, Doc, I said, already feeling the thrum of my sonic flow, eager to join the chorus. We're Team Charlie, right? C is for collateral damage is just creative urban renewal. Now let's figure out how to crash their little deployment party before they even leave the driveway. Chapter 6, Operation Block Party, Controlled Demolition of Uncontrolled Variables. Perspective. Kiesza, Director of the Light. The data streams flooded the command center at the point. A cacophony of battlefield reports, distorted energy readings, and what I generously termed personnel feedback. My new, exquisitely complicated task force was making its presence known across San Francisco. The results were predictably unpredictable. Kiesza, you reading this? Blade here. Twin Peaks is a psychoactive funhouse, and their main toy is a reality-unraveling doomsday device. Scratch the, quote, frontal assault with overwhelming firepower plan. Unless overwhelming firepower now includes weaponized existential philosophy. Got a new angle, but it's a bit out there. Sending visuals of their big bad mood machine now. Blade's voice, laced with his usual dark humor, was accompanied by images of a truly disturbing piece of Court of Contradictions architecture. My eyebrow arched. Ontological cascade was not a desirable outcome. Then came Samson's measured tones from the dog patch. Director, Team Bravo has eyes on the SCAR Genesis Legion's primary nest. Heavy fortification, significant biomechanical fusion with derelict structures. The dominant energy signature is aggressively parasitic. They are consuming and repurposing everything. Dr. Reed notes accelerated mutation rates. Ronan Sato is networking. I made a mental note to review whatever surveillance footage we had on Ronan's networking. And from Lyricannon, leading Team Charlie at the Presidio, asterisk. Yo K, your intel on these Legion remnant fossils was mad dusty. These ain't no Geritol Brigade. They're cashed up, chromed out, and playing for keeps. And get this, they just launched 3 of their own mini-me death squads, flow users and all. Looks like they're planning a citywide house party, and we ain't on the guest list. Let the skeleton crew mine in their main bunker, though. Interesting. All of it. The Court's unmaker machine, the SCAR Legion's nest, the Remnant's unexpected technological leap, and their own offensive deployment. The city was a chessboard of warring lunatics, and my pieces were scattered amidst the fray. Just as I was processing this delightful influx of strategic migraines, 2 new variables made their presence known in the command center. One arrived with a shimmer of iridescent rainbow flow and a serene, powerful calm, Kiesza, leader of Oracle's flow weavers. The other appeared with a pop of displaced air, a swirl of chaotic probability, and an insufferable grin. Wildcard. Director K. Heard you were throwing a shindig in Frisco and didn't send an invite? Rude. Wildcard chirped, already pilfering a nutrient bar from a supply crate. Oracle figured you could use some top-tier chaotic intervention and, well, Kiesza here is the designated adult. Kiesza inclined her head. Director, the Oracle network registered the escalating flow disturbances. My team and I were in the vicinity. We are prepared to offer assistance. Her rainbow flow was indeed a potent force, a beacon of stability in this maelstrom. Their arrival was timely, perhaps even orchestrated by Oracle. Regardless, their capabilities were undeniable. Your timing is opportune, I conceded. The current situation has developed complexities that necessitate a revised strategic approach. I brought up the main tactical display. The city, a patchwork of hostile territories, and Team Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie's operational zones. Blade, I calmed him first. Your assessment of the course device is accurate. Direct assault is no longer viable. What's this out there plan of yours? His voice crackled back. If they weaponize illogic, we fight it with aggressive weaponized sense. We bore them into submission, K. Overwhelm their paradoxes with pedantic, mind-numbing bureaucratic truth. Al Finch is practically vibrating with ideas about ontological filibusters. I almost allowed myself a smile. It was absurd. It was also potentially the only non-catastrophic option. Proceed with formulating that approach, Blade. Maintain reconnaissance. Avoid direct engagement with the device itself for now. Next, Lyricannon, Team Charlie. Your intel on the Legion Remnants deployment is critical. They've shown their hand. We will allow their 3 external teams to depart. Let them add to the citywide chaos. It will draw resources, create diversions. Lyricannon's laugh crackled. So we just let these robo-fascists go play? You sure about that, Kay? Sounds like you're inviting more wolves to the sheep party. The Remnant's main base, now with a reduced guard, becomes your primary target, Lyricannon, I clarified. A decapitation strike while their forces are overextended. The chaos they intend to sow elsewhere will serve our purpose. This was the crux of it. A new play. Call it Operation Block Party. Let the existing factions and the Remnant's newly deployed teams clash. Let them expose each other's weaknesses. Tie up each other's forces. In the ensuing citywide pandemonium, my teams would strike with precision. This brings me to Team Delta, I continued. Their current mandate is too broad for a single unit, given the evolving situation. We need to embed their specialized skills. I looked at Shadow Fang, Rensado, and Lyra, who had been recalled to the point for the new briefing. Fang, I addressed her directly. Team Alpha's new plan will likely require stealth and precision. Your skills will augment Blade's team significantly in approaching the core's stronghold without triggering their unmaker. Fang nodded, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes as she glanced at Blade. Rensato, I turned to my light operative. Team Charlie is engaging a technologically superior remnant force at their base. Your expertise in flow disruption and counter-tech will be invaluable to Lyricannon in neutralizing their advanced systems. Ren adjusted his gear, looking focused. Understood, Director. And Lyra? I said to the Vibrant Keeper. Team Bravo is assaulting the SCAR Genesis Legion's primary nest. Your portal generation will provide Samson's team with unparalleled tactical mobility for infiltration, exfiltration, or rapid repositioning within that hazardous environment. Lyra practically bounced. Portals into a monster nest? Deadass awesome. Just point me where the screaming is loudest. Finally, I addressed my new base defense. Kiesza wildcard. With the other teams committed, the point becomes a high-value target. If any of these factions realize we are coordinating efforts, they may attempt a direct assault. Your combined abilities, Rainbow Flow for healing, purification, and defense, and wildcard. Your unique talent for probability manipulation will be our primary shield here. Kiesza nodded, her presence a comforting certainty. We will hold this ground, Director. Wildcard saluted with the half-eaten nutrient bar. Defend the fort from the forces of terminal boredom and/or cosmic annihilation? You got it, K-Boss. Just try not to scuff my dimensional entry points with all your organized stability. It was a gamble, this Operation Block Party. Relying on the inherent chaos of warring factions to create openings was a dangerous strategy. But with our limited resources and the sheer scale of the threats, direct confrontation on all fronts was untenable. We would use their aggression, their hunger for turf, against them. While they tore each other apart, we would dismantle their power bases, secure our objectives, and gather the intelligence, the samples, needed to understand and ultimately combat the SCAR genesis. The city was a brawl, and we were about to make sure everyone knew who was hosting the main event. So Kiesza's grand Operation Block Party was in full swing. Translation: the whole damn city was kicking off, and we, Team Charlie, were front row for the Presidio pissing contest. Our job? Crash the Legion Remnant's little home base now that their main goon squads had flown the coop looking for trouble elsewhere. Decapitation strike, Kiesza called it. I called it Tuesday. Chapter 7, Presidio Beatdown. My speakers, they're screaming. Perspective, Lyricannon, all right, my brainiacs. I whisper-yelled into the comms. Me, Dr. Eris Thorne, my personal encyclopedia of alien curse words, and Kronos, the dude who probably remembers when dirt was new, stacked up outside some busted-ass bunker door in the Presidio. Kiesza wants us to knock politely and ask these Legionnaire fossils to surrender their ill-gotten turf. Me? I'm thinking we skip the pleasantries and go straight to the redecorating with extreme prejudice phase. Sound good? Eris, bless his nerdy heart, was already scanning the reinforced door with some fancy light-issue gizmo. Lyricannon, the external plating is a composite alloy, likely resistant to conventional ballistics and lower-frequency sonic disruption. However, I'm detecting a subtle resonant frequency near the primary locking mechanism. A focused sonic pulse at precisely 78.3 kilohertz might theoretically compromise its integrity. Deadass, Eris? You want me to sonic pick the lock? I grinned. My man. See Kronos? He's learning. Next thing you know, he'll be telling me to deadass stick him up. Kronos just stood there. Like, if a statue could judge your life choices, that was him. The temporal flow within the immediate vicinity of the entrance shows minimal anomalous activity, Lyricannon. However, the energy signatures from within suggest advanced technological defenses and a disciplined, albeit diminished, garrison. Discipline, huh? We'll see how disciplined they are when their eardrums are singing soprano, I muttered, tweaking my sonic rig. Eris, 78.3 kilohertz it is. Stand back, boys. Unless you want your feelings to achieve sentience. I focused a tight beam, a high-pitched whine that probably made dogs 3 counties over lose their minds. There was a satisfying thunk clank, and the massive door hissed open a crack. Bingo! Who needs a key when you got killer acoustics? Team Charlie, moving in. Try not to scuff the apocalypse on your way out. The inside of the bunker wasn't some dusty old relic. Nah, this was all sleek black corridors, glowing blue light strips, and the hum of serious tech. These remnants had definitely upgraded from their grandpa's army surplus. Place is wired tighter than a drum, Kay. I reported into the comms for Kiesza's listening pleasure. Looks like these old dogs didn't just learn new tricks. They went and got cybernetic implants and a subscription to Evil Lairs Monthly. We hadn't gone 10 feet when the welcoming committee showed up. A half dozen of those black armored goons, plasma rifles already warming up. Intruder alert, one of them barked, his voice all robotic and distorted. Neutralize the hostiles. Hostiles? Honey, we're the damn entertainment, I yelled, dropping a wide-angle sonic boom that sent them staggering and clapping their hands over their fancy helmets. Eris, find me a weak spot in that armor. Kronos, you got any temporal party tricks for these tin cans? Eris was already analyzing. Their armor shows a slight vulnerability to focused kinetic impact at the articulation points of the major joints. Knees, elbows, neck seals. Kronos moved, a blur of impossible grace for a dude built like a time-traveling fridge. He didn't attack directly. Instead, he subtly manipulated the localized time flow around one of the goons, just for a fraction of a second. The goon, mid-charge, suddenly found himself moving through molasses while the rest of us were on fast forward. It was like watching a really bad action movie buffering. Thanks for the slow-mo, Big C, I quipped, unleashing a series of sharp sonic pulses at the goon's now hilariously slow-moving knee joint. Crack! The goon went down, howling inside his helmet. The application of localized temporal distortion can indeed create tactical vulnerabilities, Kronos intoned, as if he were discussing the weather. Fascinating. We pushed deeper. These Legion goons were tough, but they were predictable. Their tech was good, but my sound system was better. Eris was calling out weak points like a damn sports commentator. Target the auxiliary power unit on the dorsal plate in Lyricannon. Its shielding is subpar, and Kronos was making sure any surprises they had for us arrived fashionably late. Then we hit what looked like their command center. And there he was, the Flow-user Kiesza warned us about. This dude was a real piece of work. Lean, mean, with glowing blue circuit-like lines all over his exposed skin, and a nasty-looking energy whip crackling in his hand. He wasn't alone. 2 more of those high-tech goons flanked him, looking like they meant business. Well, 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 the Flow user sneered, his voice amplified by some throat mic, sounding like a demon gargling nails. Look what the cat dragged in. A discount rock star? A librarian? And what in the chrono hell are you supposed to be? He directed at Kronos. I am Kronos, the Guardian replied, his voice resonating with the weight of millennia. And your temporal signature is disappointingly linear for one who presumes to guard this nexus. Ooh, burn. I chimed in. He just called you basic? Circuit face? Now, me and my boys here are gonna need you to pack up your glow sticks and your little Legion clubhouse and vacate the premises. This block is under new management. Circuit face just laughed. You think you can take this base? With this crew? My flow will tear you apart before you can even scream for your mommy. His whip lashed out, a streak of blue energy. Not if my boy Eris has anything to say about your fashion sense. I yelled, diving behind the console. Doc, what's the haps on this glowy weirdo? Any allergies? Maybe a crippling fear of polka music? Eris, surprisingly calm under fire, was already analyzing. His energy signature is consistent with a techno-organic flow, Lyricannon. The conduits on his skin are not merely aesthetic. They appear to channel and amplify his abilities, drawing power directly from the base's mainframe. If you can disrupt those conduits, or sever his connection to the mainframe, it should significantly diminish his output. Disrupt conduits, huh? My specialty. I focused my sonics, not on the dude himself, but on the floor panels where thick cables, probably leading to that mainframe, snaked towards him. I hit him with a sustained, bone-rattling low frequency. The whole room started to shake. Circuit face stumbled, his energy whip flickering. What are you doing, you screeching harpy? Just a little redecorating, Sparky. Loosening up the floorboards. Meanwhile, Kronos was doing his temporal voodoo again. The 2 goons flanking Circuit face suddenly found their plasma rifles discharging in slow motion, the bolts hanging in the air like lazy fireflies. This is not optimal, one of them grunted, trying to get his gun to work right. No, deadass, it ain't optimal for you, I cackled, redirecting my sonic assault. While Circuit face was distracted by the floor show and his suddenly useless backup, I aimed a high-frequency, armor-piercing shriek right at one of those glowing blue lines on his arm. He screamed, a real, honest-to-God yelp, as the conduit overloaded and sparked violently. The energy whip vanished. My flow, what did you do? Just unplugged, you genius. I shot back. Turns out, your fancy powers ain't so fancy when the juice gets cut. Now, about that surrender you were gonna offer? This turf war was just getting started, but Team Charlie, we were dead-ass making some noise. And it was gonna be a hell of a show. Chapter 7, Operation Block Party, Twin Peaks Tiki Torch Takedown. Perspective, the Obsidian Blade, and Shadow Fang, Blade. So Operation Block Party was a go. Kiesza, bless her cold, calculating heart, actually signed off on my brand of inspired lunacy for dealing with the court of contradictions at Twin Peaks. Phase 1. Distract the reality-bending weirdos. Phase 2. Hit them with something so mind-numbingly normal, it'd make their paradoxical brains short-circuit. Phase 3. Grab a souvenir. Simple. What could go wrong in a city actively trying to eat its own existential tail? Team Alpha Mark II was leaner, meaner, and had 100% more fang, which was always an improvement. She'd been reassigned from Team Pokedex duty, Delta, to provide her unique brand of silent but deadly support. Good. Needed someone who could actually follow a plan without questioning the philosophical implications of every damn shadow. Al Finch was still our designated professor of perplexing polygons. Tempest was itching to temporally spank something, and Jackson was Jackson. Reserved face giving away less emotion than a concrete slab. All right, you magnificent circus of tactical questionability, I addressed my squad, crouched behind some surprisingly stable, for now, rocks overlooking the court's wobbly excuse for a headquarters. Fang, you and I are going to be the tip of this very weird spear. Al, you're on scream if the angles start looking too much like your recurring nightmares duty. Tempest, keep your temporal tantrums on a leash until I give the word. Jackson, you're our reality check. If the ground turns into screaming faces, give us a heads up, yeah? Shadow Fang Blade was in his element, that manic leader energy crackling around him like static. It was a familiar dance. Him playing the bombastic frontman, me being the quiet edge that made sure the show didn't end prematurely. His plan was typically Blade, fight reality-bending chaos with weaponized mundanity. He'd had Jackson and Tempest rig up a broad-spectrum projector to blast. Well, let's just say it was the antithesis of everything the court stood for. Approaching the target zone, Jackson announced, Zer voice flat. Multiple anomalous energy signatures detected. Probability of encountering sentient paradoxes, 98.7%. Love those odds, Blade muttered, pulling me forward. Stay frosty, Fang. Let's give these clowns a show they'll be trying to unsee for weeks. As we got closer, the air got thicker with that weird brain-twisting energy the court loved so much. Walls shimmered, paths looped back on themselves, and I swear I saw a pigeon fly backwards and lay an egg that hatched into a tiny, confused grandfather clock. Standard Tuesday. Then all hell, a different kind of hell, broke loose. Blade explosions suddenly ripped across the other side of Twin Peaks. Not the reality unraveling kind of kaboom, but good old-fashioned, high-tech plasma fire. Turns out, one of those revitalized Legion remnant teams Lyricannon had clocked decided today was the day to try and claim Twin Peaks for themselves. Talk about crashing a party. Well, now, ain't this a delightful clustercuss? I grinned under my mask. Figures of black-armored Legion goons were swarming up the slopes, laying down heavy fire. And wouldn't you know it, May and her band of merry weirdos, Aleph, Kai, Nyala, and Rohan, were rising to meet them, their own brand of temporal loops and reality farts flying thick and fast. Looks like our distraction just got a serious upgrade, Fang murmured beside me, her eyes narrowed as she tracked the three-way chaos unfolding. You dead-ass said it, Fang. This was perfect. While the court was busy playing, quote, who can out-paradox who with the Legion remnants, their main unmaker machine might just be a little less attended. All right, alphas, change of plans, or rather, acceleration of existing lunacy. Jackson, what's the status on their big woo-woo device? Amidst this new brand of stupid, Jackson's optical sensors whirred. The primary engagement appears to be drawing the court's core members, including the entity designated May, away from the central edifice. Energy levels around their ontological weapon are still high, but active internal defenses seem distracted. Distracted is my favorite flavor of vulnerable, I declared. Tempest, Al, you guys are with Jackson. Set up the Borinator 3000. Fang, you're with me. We're gonna sneak in while the big kids are throwing their toys, and see if we can't give their unmaker machine a serious case of existential indigestion. Shadow Fang Blade's Borinator 3000 was, in essence, a high-power projector loaded with the most mind-numbingly dull, pedantically logical content imaginable. Hours of tax code readings, municipal planning documents for forgotten bureaucracies, endless scrolling lists of prime numbers, all set to the soothing tones of elevator music. The theory was, if the court's tech was powered by contradiction and illogic, a massive, focused blast of pure, unadulterated sense might just crash their system. It was insane. It was Blade, while Jackson, Tempest, and a muttering owl. The sheer banality. It's an affront to chaotic beauty. I love it. Set up their weapon of mass monotony, Blade and I moved. The battle between the court and the Legion was escalating. Plasma bolts met shimmering illusions. Temporal distortions clashed with focused energy blasts. It was a beautiful, deadly mess. And it was the perfect cover. We slipped into the court's stronghold, the internal architecture even more of a nightmare than Al had described. Stairs led into walls, doors opened into sheer drops, and gravity seemed to be taking intermittent coffee breaks. See anything that looks like an off switch for that unmaker thing? Blade whispered, his bipolar flow a low thrum under his skin. Ready for trouble. I spotted it, the swirling vortex of WTF they had inside. Fewer guards now, most of them looking like those flickering paradoxical shards. And they seemed agitated by the battle raging outside. There, I pointed. Looks like it's powered by those big tuning fork things. Right. Plan is simple. Jackson and Tempest hit it with the full force of Uncle Sam's tax code from the outside. We tried to overload whatever input mechanism those forks are using from the inside. Don't break it, just confuse it. Violently. Blade, just as Jackson's voice came over the comms, asterisk projector armed, Captain. Initiating broadcast of Subsection B, Paragraph 12 of the 1973 Municipal Zoning Ordinances for Des Moines, Iowa on a continuous loop. The stronghold groaned. The paradoxical shards guarding the device flickered erratically, as if the sheer, weaponized boredom was causing them physical pain. "Hit it, Fang!" I yelled. We didn't have conventional weapons that would affect the tuning forks directly, but we had raw flow. I poured my Yami into one, a torrent of focused negativity and disruption. Fang, moving like a wraith, channeled her own energy, not on a fire this time, but a concentrated burst of disruptive force, into another. The effect of the external borinator combined with our internal assault was spectacular. The Unmaker machine shuddered. The swirling vortex within it sputtered, colors shifting from cosmic horror to confused beige. The paradoxical shards shrieked, a sound like dial-up modems being strangled, and then popped out of existence, like they just couldn't handle one more second of property tax law. "I think it's working," Fang yelled over the din. "Yeah, well, let's not stick around for the encore." I grabbed her arm. "Alphas, report. Device signature destabilizing, Captain." Jackson confirmed. "Recommend immediate exfiltration." Also, Entity May appears to have noticed our contribution. She does not look pleased. "Time to ghost," I ordered. We legged it, the sounds of the Court/Legion slugfest still raging behind us, now mixed with a new, distinct series of pops and fizzles from the direction of the Unmaker machine. As we were scrambling out through a corridor that was rapidly deciding it wanted to be a ball pit, Fang tugged my arm. "Blade, look!" One of those paradoxical shards, smaller than the others, was lying on the floor, flickering weakly. It looked stunned. Probably from an overdose of sensible zoning regulations. "Well now," I said, scooping the faintly buzzing thing into a spare evidence bag I borrowed from the point. Kiesza wanted samples. "This little guy looks pretty paradoxical. Souvenir." Fang just rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile. "Only you, Blade. Leader's prerogative, Fang. Now let's get the hell out of here before Tuesday decides to become a permanent fixture on our foreheads." Operation Block Party was in full, glorious, idiotic swing. Chapter 8. Quantum Uno. Reverse. When the house party calls the cops on you. Perspective. Black Samson, Dog Patch District. The air in the heart of the dog patch was a putrid soup of industrial solvents, ozone, and the sickeningly sweet decay of the SCAR Genesis. Team Bravo had pushed deep into the SCAR Genesis Legion's territory, what Dr. Reed had aptly termed their nest. It was a labyrinth of rusted gantries and warehouses, all fused and pulsing with the Legion's corrupting flow. We were outnumbered, outgunned by sheer, mutated ferocity. Sterling left flank, that large one, with the fused cannon. I called out, my katana ablur as I parried a blow from a hulking brute whose flesh rippled with unstable quantum energy, likely one of their titans. The impact shivered up my arms despite my flow-enhanced guard. These were not the mindless husks we'd encountered before. There was a warped cunning here, a malevolent intelligence. Marcus Sterling, his face a mask of concentration, projected a shimmering psychic barrier, deflecting a volley of what looked like bioluminescent shrapnel. Their psychic signature is raw, intensely aggressive, minimal higher thought, all predatory instinct. "Story of my life, Doc," Ronan Sato quipped, though even his usual smirk was strained. He was attempting to use his manipulative flow to turn a smaller, skittering mutant against its larger brethren. But the creature's mind, if it could be called that, was too feral, too consumed by the scar. It shrieked and lunged at him, forcing him to dance back. Dr. Reed was a whirlwind of motion, her healing flow a stark contrast to the surrounding corruption as she mended a gash on Lyra Lix's arm. Lyra had just portaled them out of a collapsing structure, her usual energetic chatter replaced by grim determination. "These guys don't do subtle, do they?" Lyra gasped, already focusing for another portal. "It's all RAARGH, me smash reality." A colossal figure emerged from the shadows of a listing freighter, easily 12 feet tall, its body a grotesque fusion of metal and pulsing, quantum-infused flesh. Titan. Its roar was a physical force, and reality itself seemed to buckle around it. "This is our becoming," it bellowed, its voice a chorus of distorted echoes. "The weak will feed the strong. The SCAR will remake all." "Lyra, extraction point now," I commanded, as Titan swatted a shipping container towards us as if it were a child's toy. "We cannot hold this position. We are significantly outmatched. The warrior's path is not always forward. Sometimes, it is the wisdom to recognize an unwinnable engagement. Perspective, the obsidian blade, the point. Back at the point, the air tasted like stale coffee and impending doom. Fang and I were nursing our respective collection of new aches from the Twin Peaks ontological filibuster. That little paradoxical shard I'd bagged was currently giving Al Finch a conniption fit of academic joy in the makeshift lab. Jackson was probably recalibrating Xur definition of acceptable operational parameters after our little stunt. So, I said to Fang, who was meticulously cleaning her commas, her movements sharp and precise, think Kiesza will give us a bonus for not actually leveling a city landmark? Or just a longer list of new ways to die? Fang didn't look up. She'll give us another mission. That's the bonus. Before I could retort with something suitably sarcastic, the main comms console, where Kiesza was coordinating this whole damn block party, lit up like a Christmas tree in hell. Samson's voice, strained but steady, filled the room. Director, Team Bravo, encountering overwhelming resistance. Titan-class entity, heavy casualties imminent, requesting immediate. The transmission cut out into a shriek of static. Well, ain't that just peachy, I muttered. The big guy's in the soup. Kiesza's face was grim. Wildcard Kiesza prepared defensive positions. Blade, Fang, status report from Alpha. Twin Peaks is still standing. Mostly, I said. The court's main toy is down for the count, and May is probably busy trying to unconfuse her own headquarters. We snagged you a pet paradox for your collection. Perspective, Lyricannon, the point. I'd just dragged my tired ass, along with a very flustered Eris Thorn and an eternally stoic Kronos, back to the point after our little unplugging party at the Presidio. The Legion Remnant's base was ours, but their main forces were still out there, probably looking for a new clubhouse. You okay, what's the haps? I called out, dumping my sonic rig on a crate. Did we miss the after party for Bravo's barbecue? 'Cause Samson sounded like he was getting his samurai butt handed to him. Kiesza didn't even turn. Lyricannon, secure the north perimeter. We have incoming. Incoming what? Pizza? 'Cause I'm starving, and Eris here looks like he's about to faint from intellectual exertion or lack of decent tea. Eris just blinked owlishly. Then the alarms blared. Not the oops, someone spilled their coffee on the console kind of alarm. This was the oh crap we're all gonna die symphony in D minor. The main viewport, reinforced as it was, shuddered. Outside, the sky, already a lovely shade of apocalypse gray, was now swarming. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of those black-armored Scar Genesis goons, the ones that looked like they'd been kitted out by a sadist with a quantum credit card, were descending on the point. And leading the charge, floating like a pair of malevolent musical notes from hell, were bass and treble. Their quantum-infused sonic energy was already making the damn walls hum. Bass and treble, Kiesza breathed, her rainbow flow already igniting around her, a desperate, beautiful defiance against the encroaching darkness. They command a significant portion of the Scar Legion's forces. Wildcard, who'd been trying to teach our pet Paradox how to play poker, it wasn't going well for the Paradox, suddenly looked up, a manic grin spreading across her face. Ooh, quantum-infused sonic psychos? And they brought an army? Now this is what I call a housewarming. Perspective, Shadow Fang, the point. The assault was instantaneous and brutal. Bass, a hulking figure crackling with deep, resonant quantum energy, unleashed a shockwave that blew the main bay doors off their hinges. Treble, slighter but radiating a high-frequency menace, followed with a piercing sonic shriek that shattered every piece of unsecured glass in the command center and sent waves of agony through our skulls. Sonic shields, Lyricannon, now! Blade roared, his own Hikari and Yami flows flaring erratically as he shoved me behind a barricade of overturned equipment. The bipolar flow was a wild storm inside him, reacting to the sheer overwhelming force. Lyricannon was already on it, her face set in a snarl of defiance. Eat this, you tone-deaf tyrants. She slammed her hands on her rig, and a shimmering dome of multi-layered sound erupted around the core of the command center. But even that buckled under the sustained assault from Bass and Treble's combined power. The Scar Legion goons poured in, their plasma fire painting the room in streaks of deadly light. Kiesza was a whirlwind of rainbow flow, her light lashing out, purifying patches of corruption. But for every goon she vaporized, 3 more took its place. Wildcard was a chaotic blur, probabilities twisting around her. A Legionnaire's rifle would jam, another would trip over its own feet. A support beam would conveniently choose that exact moment to collapse on a whole squad. But even her reality-bending antics couldn't stem the tide. This wasn't a fight. It was a siege. And we were on the wrong side of the numbers, the wrong side of the firepower. The Scar Genesis Legion, these Twisted Legion commanders, they weren't just making movements. They were playing a goddamn Quantum Uno reverse card on our whole operation. Blade met my eyes, his visible one burning with a desperate, familiar fire. Looks like another Tuesday in paradise, huh, Fang? Yeah, paradise, with a soundtrack by Screaming Metal and a guest list from the 7th Circle of Quantum Hell. We were so dead-ass screwed. Chapter 9, Twin Demon Love, Tag Team of the Apocalypse. Perspective, Lyricannon. Yo, let me tell you, things at the point were looking mad bleak. Bass and Treble, those quantum sonic douchebags, were conducting a symphony of suck all over our doorstep, and their backup dancers. The whole damn Scar Legion army were pouring in like roaches after a nuclear potluck. My sonic shields were buckling, Kiesza's rainbows were looking faded, and even Wildcard was starting to look less chaotic fun and more chaotic, oh crap, we gonna die. We were getting our asses handed to us, express delivery, no returns. Blade and Fang were back to back, a grim little island in a sea of plasma fire and mutated freaks. He was a whirlwind of that messed up light and shadow bipolar flow of his, and she was a crimson blur of Oni rage, but there were just too damn many of them. I saw Blade take a nasty hit, that yummy energy of his flicker in like a dying candle. Fang let out this ungodly shriek, pure Oni, all rage and pain. As she tried to cover him, her claws tearing through Legion armor but taking hits herself. They were both looking ragged, pushed to the absolute edge. Then something went sideways. Like, more sideways than our current foobar situation. 1 second, Blade staggering, his light flow sputtering. The next, this wail rips out of him. A sound that ain't human, ain't Yami, ain't Hikari. It's something else. His body arched, and this freaky energy exploded outwards. At the same exact damn second, Fang, who was shielding him, let out a mirror image howl. Their energies, his bipolar mess, and her Oni fire, they didn't just flare up, they tangled. My jaw, deadass, hit the floor. I seen some weird flow crap in my day, but this was a whole new level of what the actual Fanta. Blade's form started shifting. Those Oni markings, fangets, they started appearing on him, blacker than a politician's heart, snaking across his skin under his torn gear. But his eyes, instead of just going full crimson like fangs, one was burning with that Yami darkness, the other with a Hikari light so bright it hurt to look at. Claws, yeah, he got those too, sharp enough to gut a damn paradox golem. And Fang, holy crap, Fang. Her crimson Oni glow didn't just intensify, it got shot through with streaks of that same blinding Hikari light from Blade. One of her eyes was still that burning Oni red, but the other, pure, radiant white. Her markings shifted, some staying dark, others seeming to pulse with an inner luminescence. It was like they'd, cross-contaminated their crazy. Like they'd tapped into some shared, unstable, backcrap, insane power source. An Oni bipolar flow. Twin demon love. Manifest. My sonic rig was going haywire trying to even parse the energy signatures. You okay, boss? You seeing this? I yelled into the comms, forgetting all about the Legion goons momentarily. Blade and Fang just went full. I don't even know what. It's like they did a damn fusion dance from one of them old animes. Then they moved. And let me tell you, if you thought they were dangerous before, this was like watching two gods of destruction decide to redecorate hell for kicks. Blade would be a vortex of pure Yamioni darkness, tearing through a squad of Legion goons like they were wet paper, his claws leaving trails of disintegrating shadow. Then, a split second later, if one of them got a lucky shot lined up on Fang, he'd flip, bam, Hikari Oni light erupted from him, a shield of pure burning goodness that vaporized plasma bolts midair. No thought, no hesitation, just pure, instantaneous reaction. Protect and destroy, light and dark, switching faster than a politician's principles. Fang was the same. One moment, she's a dark crimson blur, ripping and tearing with that terrifying Oni grace, all feral snarls and brutal efficiency. The next, a Legionnaire targets Blade, and she's suddenly blazing with that Hikari-infused Oni power, intercepting the attack with a blast of light that seemed to sear the very air, then switching right back to dark, visceral carnage. They weren't just fighting together anymore. It was like they were one being in two bodies, sharing the same damn power pool, the same goddamn thought process. He'd go dark, she'd go light to cover him. She'd unleash a wave of Hikari-fused Oni power. He'd follow up with a devastating Yami strike into the opening she created. Get some, you freaks. I screamed, my own sonics feeling like a damn pea shooter next to the elemental apocalypse they were unleashing. I started blasting away at the stunned Legion goons, trying to support their insane ballet of destruction. The emotion coming off them was raw, man. It wasn't just rage, though there was plenty of that. It was this terrifying, possessive, touch them and you die vibe. Blade, usually so wrapped up in his own torment, was moving with a clarity I'd never seen. Every dark strike perfectly complementing Fang's light. Every protective flash of his Hikari Oni aimed at keeping her safe. And Fang, who usually kept her Oni rage on a tight leash, was letting it sing. But it was tempered now, focused, amplified by that impossible light. They were a goddamn natural disaster made of love and shared psychosis. The Scar Legion army? Those high-tech, quantum-juiced chumps? They didn't stand a snowball's chance in a supernova. Blade and Fang, in this new freaky twin demon mode, they weren't just taking out the army, they were erasing it. 1 minute, a whole squad of Legion goons would be charging, plasma blazing. The next, just a pile of smoking boots and the faint smell of ozone and Oni-fueled crazy. Kiesza and Wildcard were staring, their own attacks kind of forgotten for a second. Even Kronos, if he had eyebrows, would have had him singed off. This wasn't in any damn playbook. This was some new, ghetto hardcore, put the kids to bed and pray they don't have nightmares type of action. The tide of battle didn't just turn. It got hit by a damn tsunami named Blade and Fang. The army wasn't just being beaten, it was being unmade. One terrifying, perfectly synchronized light and dark Oni combo at a time. And me? I was just trying to provide the damn soundtrack to the most beautiful, terrifying, and deadass insane beatdown I'd ever witnessed. This turf war, the entertainment value just went through the damn roof. Chapter 10. Power down, problems up. The hangover of the gods. Perspective, Lyricannon. The silence after Blade and Fang's couples therapy psycho explosion was weirder than the noise. 1 minute, the point's main hangar was a mosh pit from hell. All plasma fire, sonic booms, and the unholy shriek of that twin demon flow. The next, just smoking craters, piles of Legionnaire scrap metal, and the faint, disturbing smell of ozone mixed with something vaguely like burnt cinnamon and pure unfiltered crazy. The army? Gone. Obliterated. Turned into an abstract art installation titled, "Don't Mess with the Love Demons." Blade and Fang stood in the middle of it all, swaying like a couple of skyscrapers in an earthquake. The freaky Oni bipolar light show around them sputtered, dimmed, and then just, poof, gone. They dropped like someone cut their puppet strings, simultaneously. Just crumpled. If it wasn't for Kiesza and Wildcard zipping over, they'd have face planted right into a pile of their own epic devastation. Whoa, easy there, lovebirds. Wildcard yelped, trying to catch Blade, who was about as easy to handle as a tranquilized rhino. Kiesza, with that rainbow flow of hers looking more like a comforting nightlight than a weapon right now, was already at Fang's side, checking her vitals. Me and Eris, with Kronos just kinda existing nearby, rushed over. Blade's mask was cracked clean across, showing a glimpse of a face that was all harsh lines and exhaustion. Fang looked like a porcelain doll that had gone 10 rounds with a jackhammer. Both of them were out cold, breathing shallow, looking like they'd used up every last drop of whatever cosmic crazy fuel they were running on. "Deadass, K-Boss," I muttered into the comms, my own voice hoarse. The welcoming committee's been unwelcomed, violently. But I think Blade and Fang just used up their entire year's supply of whoop-ass in one go. They're down. Hard. Dr. Reed was already there, her med scanner chirping anxiously. Their energy levels are critically low, almost depleted. The fusion, whatever that was, it pushed them far beyond their normal limits. They're stable, but they'll be unconscious for hours, maybe longer. They need rest and a serious energy top-up when they wake. So the good news, we weren't currently being overrun by an army of quantum-juiced super soldiers. The bad news, our 2 biggest nukes were offline, and the party playlist Kiesza cooked up for Operation Block Party was far from over. Perspective, Kiesza. The reports from Lyricannon confirmed my sensor readings. The massive energy spike, the subsequent neutralization of the attacking Legion forces, and now the critical depletion of subjects Blade and Fang. Their twin demon flow, as Lyricannon had colorfully dubbed it, was an unforeseen variable, immensely powerful, but clearly at a significant cost. They were assets, potent ones, but their current state rendered them liabilities if not properly managed. The immediate perimeter around the point was secure, a testament to their destructive outburst, but the silence was deceptive. Lyricannon, status on bass and treble? I queried, my voice calm, betraying none of the internal calculations whirring through my mind. Those two quantum sonic commanders hadn't been reported amongst the debris. Negative, K, Lyricannon's voice crackled back. They pulled a Houdini when their army started doing the spontaneous disintegration dance. Smart money says they ain't gone far. Probably calling their big boss, that Director Scarred Steward or whatever, crying about how the freaks at the point didn't play fair. A tactical retreat on their part. Logical. They had assessed the immediate threat posed by Blade and Fang's anomalous power surge and withdrawn to preserve their own strength. They would be back, or they would relay intelligence that would bring something worse. And then there was Team Bravo. The comm line with Samson had been severed during the height of the assault on the point. Their last transmission indicated they were facing overwhelming odds, specifically a Titan-class entity. The silence from their sector was deeply unsettling. Wildcard, I addressed the chaotic entity, who was now attempting to use a piece of Legion armor as a makeshift skateboard. Your unique senses. Can you get any read on Team Bravo's situation in the Dogpatch district? Samson's last report was concerning. Wildcard paused her impromptu 10th games. Dogpatch, huh? Place sounds rough. She closed her eyes for a moment, her usual manic grin replaced by a look of concentration that was almost unnerving. Yeah, it's messy, K-Boss. Real messy. Samson's crew is dug in, but they're taking a pounding. That Titan thing is a real party pooper. And I'm getting flickers of absence energy? Wraith, maybe? Or something equally unfun. They're holding, but it's like trying to hold back the tide with a colander. Wraith, another of Quinn's high-ranking lieutenants in this Scarred Legion. If Titan and Wraith were engaging Team Bravo, their situation was beyond critical. The assault on the point had been a feint, or perhaps a concurrent, opportunistic strike. The true crushing force of the Scarred Genesis Legion was likely being brought to bear against Samson. Lyricannon, I ordered, my mind racing through strategic permutations. Team Charlie is to redeploy immediately. Your new objective, reinforce Team Bravo in the Dogpatch district. The Legion Remnant's base can wait. Samson cannot. Copy that, Kay. Lyricannon responded, a new urgency in her voice. Eris, Kronos, you heard the lady. Pack your lunchboxes, kids. We're going on another field trip. This one's got certain death written all over it, so it should be right up our alley. Kiesza, I turned to the Flow Weaver, her rainbow aura a steady, comforting presence. You and I, along with Wildcard and the remaining base personnel, will maintain defense here. Blade and Fang are out of commission. We are vulnerable if Bass and Treble decide to return for an encore. Kiesza nodded, her gaze firm. The light of the point will not be extinguished easily, Director. The block party was far from over. One wave of attackers had been spectacularly repelled, yes, but at the cost of two of our most powerful operatives. Samson was fighting for his life, and two quantum sonic commanders were still in play, their main army shattered but their own power undiminished. The victory here was a breath, nothing more. The true test of Operation Block Party, and our ability to survive this scarred city, was just beginning. Chapter 11, Dogpatch Inferno. When push comes to shove it down your throat. Perspective, Black Samson. The clang of my katana against the Titan's quantum-fused hide sent tremors through my arms. Each blow felt like striking a mountain that struck back with the force of a runaway freight train. Team Bravo was a whirlwind of desperate courage in the heart of the Scarred Genesis Legion's nest, but the tide was overwhelmingly against us. Sterling? Shield integrity? I called out, deflecting a razor-sharp tendril of corrupted metal compromised by 40% Samson. Marcus Sterling grunted, his psychic barrier flickering violently under a barrage from smaller, skittering Scar mutants. Their sheer numbers and the Titan's disruptive aura is eroding my focus. Ronin Sato, surprisingly, was fighting with a desperate ferocity, his manipulative flow finding little purchase on these feral minds, but his combat skills proving unexpectedly sharp. No witty banter for these ones, EH Samurai, he yelled, ducking under a clawed swipe. They're all rage, no finesse. Like a bar fight with actual monsters. Dr. Reed was a beacon of calm fury, her healing flow mending wounds almost as fast as they appeared, but even her reserves were visibly dwindling. Lyra Lix, our keeper asset, was a blur, portaling teammates out of kill zones, her usually vibrant scales dulled with grime and stress. There's too many exits and not enough away in this hellhole, she cried, yanking Dr. Reed through a shimmering rift just as the ground beneath her erupted in scar tendrils. The Titan roared, a sound that vibrated in my very bones, and swatted Sterling aside. His shield shattered, and he crumpled. Marcus! Dr. Reed screamed. This was it, the point where courage met its limit. But the warrior's spirit does not break. It merely finds a deeper well. Team Bravo, I bellowed, my voice resonating with every ounce of flow I possessed. Hold the line. For the balance. For what little light remains. Perspective, Lyricannon. Yo, Kronos, punch it. We ain't got time for a scenic tour of Frisco's fabulous ruins. I yelled, my knuckles white on the dash of our commandeered beat-to-hell armored truck. Team Charlie was hauling ass towards Dogpatch, Kiesza's SOS about Samson's crew ringing in our ears. Eris Thorne was strapped in beside me, looking greener than those damn miasma clouds we'd seen earlier. Lyricannon? The inertial dampeners on this vehicle are suboptimal. My internal organs are currently attempting to stage a mutiny. Suck it up, Buttercup. I shot back, swerving to avoid a pile of what looked like sentient, angry rubble. Samson's about to become monster chow if we don't get there, like yesterday. Kronos, any temporal shortcuts you can whip out, or are we stuck in this linear traffic jam from hell? The ancient guardian was, as usual, a picture of calm in the storm. The direct application of chrono displacement over this distance, with the current ambient SCAR Genesis interference, would be inadvisable, Lyricannon. The potential for paradoxical entanglement is significant. So no on the time travel express. Got it. We fishtailed around a crater just as a geyser of SCAR core erupted. The dog patch was dead ahead, and it looked like a damn war movie directed by a lunatic with a body horror fetish. Explosions, monstrous roars, and the distinct, sickly sweet smell of quantum corruption. Aight, Team Charlie. I barked as we screeched to a halt a block from the main firefight. Kiesza wants us to reinforce Bravo, not replace them in the morgue. Eris, find me their comms, see if you can cut through the SCAR Legion's jamming crap. Kronos, you're on, making things less sucky with time stuff duty. I'm gonna make an entrance these freaks won't forget. I cranked my sonic rig to 11, ready to drop the nastiest bass line this side of the apocalypse. Perspective, Black Samson. Just as the Titan raised a fist the size of a small car to deliver what would undoubtedly be a finishing blow, a sound wave hit it. A gut-punching, armor-rattling, mind-scrambling blast of pure, unadulterated noise. The Titan staggered, its quantum aura flickering. Lyricannon. Team Charlie erupted from the ruins like avenging angels dressed in street clothes and existential angst. Lyricannon was perched on a pile of rubble, her sonic cannons blazing, laying down a beatdown that was probably registering on the Richter scale. What up, Scarface suckers? Heard you were throwing a party and didn't invite the Queen of Noise. Rude. Eris Thorne, surprisingly agile for an academic, was already patching into our comms, his fingers flying over his datapad. Samson. Lyricannon. I've isolated the Titan's primary energy conduit, a nexus point in its upper thoracic cavity. It's heavily shielded, but vulnerable during its quantum discharge cycles. Kronos moved with that impossible time-bending grace, appearing beside me as I struggled to my feet. The Titan's next discharge cycle is imminent, Samurai. There will be a fractional moment where its quantum defenses are reconfiguring. This was our chance. Lyricannon. I roared over the din. On my mark, hit that chess piece with everything you've got. Lyra, get ready to portal Sterling and Reed to safety. Ronan, with me. We draw its fire. The combined assault was a desperate symphony of destruction. Lyricannon's focused sonic blast, guided by Eris and timed by Kronos, hit the Titan square in its glowing chest cavity just as it roared, unleashing its own wave of quantum energy. The resulting explosion was biblical. The Titan shrieked, a sound that tore at the fabric of reality, and then, slowly, impossibly, it began to crumble, its corrupted form dissolving into dust and fading quantum echoes. The remaining SCAR Legion mutants, their alpha gone, faltered, their feral rage dimming into confusion. That was all the opening we needed. Chapter 12. The point-blank stare-down. Perspective, Kiesza. The point was a fortress under siege, albeit a temporary one. The main assault force of the SCAR Genesis Legion had been spectacularly neutralized by Blade and Fang's unforeseen symbiotic detonation of power. They now lay in the med bay, deeply unconscious, their energy signatures dangerously depleted but slowly stabilizing under Dr. Reed's remote protocols now that she was free from the dogpatch engagement. The quiet, however, was deceptive. Bass and treble, the quantum sonic commanders, had retreated, not fled. They were too disciplined for a rout. Wildcard, I stated, my eyes fixed on the external sensor feeds. Report any unusual energy signatures. They will not have gone far. Wildcard, who had managed to teach the pet paradox Blade had acquired to cheat at solitaire, the paradox was surprisingly good at it, mostly by making cards exist and not exist simultaneously, looked up, still getting those nasty resonance vibes from bass and treble, K-Boss. They're lurking just outside sensor range, like a couple of cosmic bullies waiting for recess to be over so they can steal our lunch money. And they definitely ain't alone. Kiesza, her rainbow flow a calm, steadying aura in the command center, nodded. Their retreat was too orderly. They were testing our defenses, assessing our strength. She was right. The initial assault had been a probe, a brutal one, but a probe nonetheless. Now they knew about Blade and Fang's anomaly. They also likely knew it wasn't sustainable. The alert klaxon blared again, softer this time, more insidious. Perimeter breach? Sector Gamma. Jackson's voice came over the internal comms. Jackson, Al Finch, and Tempest had returned from Twin Peaks after their ontological filibuster had successfully disrupted the court's main device, leaving May's forces confused and vulnerable to the ongoing Legion Remnant assault there. They were now part of our depleted defense. It's them, Wildcard said, her usual grin gone. Bass and treble. And they ain't knocking this time. This attack was different. No army, just the two of them, moving with terrifying speed and precision, bypassing the outer debris field. Bass, the hulking engine of resonant destruction, was systematically dismantling our automated defenses with focused sonic booms. Treble, a high-frequency scalpel, was disabling surveillance systems, her movements almost too fast to track. They're surgical this time, I observed, my mind racing. They know Blade and Fang are incapacitated. They're aiming for a swift, decisive strike on command and control. So no more mosh pit, just a targeted assassination? Wildcard quipped, though her eyes were narrowed. My kinda unparty. What's the plan, K-Boss? Hide under the desks and hope they brought the wrong address? Kiesza, I said, turning to the Flow Weaver. Your rainbow flow. Can you create a disruptive harmonic field? Something to interfere with their sonic resonance. Give us an opening? Kiesza closed her eyes, her aura intensifying. Their quantum-infused sonics are potent, Director. But the rainbow flow is about harmony, and its antithesis. I can create a counter-resonance, but it will require focus, and it may not hold for long. Al Finch? Tempest Jackson? I calmed our returned members of Team Alpha. You are now our primary mobile defense. Your objective: delay and disorient. Do not engage directly unless absolutely necessary. Your powers are unconventional. Use that. By Kiesza time. Al's voice, crackling with nervous energy, came back. Delay with aggressive illogic, Director? The angles of their approach are distressingly straightforward, but perhaps a sudden localized outbreak of Tuesday could prove diverting? Tempest just grunted. Less talk, more temporal punching. Bass and treble were inside the main perimeter now. The lights flickered. The air vibrated with their power. This was a direct challenge. And without Blade and Fang's raw destructive capability, it would require a different kind of strength, a different kind of strategy to survive their encore. Chapter 13. Block Party Crumble, Dominoes in the Dark. Perspective, Obsidian Blade, Med Bay, The Point, Semi-conscious, Darkness, Pain. Then, noise. Not the good kind, like Lyricannon's rig about to drop a sick beat. This was the bad kind. The reality is tearing itself a new one and inviting you to the suture point kind. My bipolar flow was a dull ache, a drained battery. The only thing that was a blur, a shared inferno with Fang. Woke up enough to feel her hand in mine, her breathing shallow next to me. Good. She was still here. Then Kiesza's voice, tight, filtered through the medbay speakers. Bass and treble breached inner defenses. Kiesza's field is failing. Wildcard is. Wildcarding. Gotta move. The thought was like swimming through concrete. Fang stirred. Her eyes, still shadowed with exhaustion, met mine. No words. Just that look. You thinking what I'm thinking, crazy man? Yeah. Always. With a groan that felt like my spine was trying to escape my body, I hauled myself up. Every fiber screamed, but the thought of those sonic freaks wrecking our new, slightly less crappy home while we snoozed? Unacceptable. Perspective. Lyricannon, Dogpatch District. Dead-ass Samson? That was some fine, upstanding monster mashing, I yelled, leaning against a surprisingly intact piece of industrial pipe, my ears still ringing from the Titan's explosive farewell party. The remaining Scar Legion grunts were scattering. Their big boss turned to quantum confetti. Samson, ever the stoic badass, simply nodded, wiping ichor from his katana. The primary threat in this sector is neutralized. Team Bravo, report casualties. Dr. Reed was already tending to a battered Sterling, whose psychic shields had taken a hell of a beating. Sterling will recover. Lyra has a few burns from a plasma backdraft. Ronan somehow managed to acquire a surprisingly intact piece of Legion tech during the chaos. Ronan gave a wink, holding up a blinking, vaguely sinister-looking device. Figures. Good work, Team Crossover Chaos. I grinned. Now, let's call Kay and tell her we need a serious fumigation crew and maybe a parade. But before Eris could get Kiesza on the line, my comm crackled. It was Wildcard, sounding more frantic than usual. Lyricannon, you guys done playing in the dirt? 'Cause Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass just crashed the point, and Kiesza's trying to hold them off with positive affirmations and a very angry rainbow. Blade and Fang are still mostly wallpaper. Get your noisy ass back here. My blood ran cold. The point? Son of a? Eris, Kronos. New plan. We ain't done yet. Kiesza needs backup, and it sounds like the real block party just moved to our house. Perspective. Al Finch, Twin Peaks, assisting Team Alpha's retreat earlier, now observing. The mundanity? It was glorious. The Court of Contradictions' grand unmaker machine was sputtering, emitting puffs of confused beige smoke, and occasionally outputting perfectly alphabetized lists of sock pairings. Captain Blade's plan, a direct assault of weaponized normalcy, had been exquisitely effective. May and her core court members, already harried by the Legion remnant assault, were now staring at their neutralized masterpiece with expressions of profound ontological offense. The Legion remnants, equally confused by the sudden outbreak of sense in the court's defenses, had paused their attack, their high-tech weaponry aimed at a machine that was now calmly reciting the Dewey Decimal System. The battle for Twin Peaks hadn't ended with a bang, but with a bewildered whimper. The court's power base here, their ability to project large-scale paradox, was fractured. They were still dangerous, yes, but their grandest instrument of illogic was now a glorified and very boring public access broadcast. My work here, observing the delightful unraveling of their unraveled minds, was most satisfying. Perspective, Legion Remnant Commander, Unit X7, Presidio Garrison, Internal Comms, Command, this is Unit X7. The Presidio base is compromised. Hostiles utilized advanced sonic weaponry and some kind of temporal operative. Our primary flow user, subject designation Conduit Prime, has been neutralized. Request immediate evac or reinforcement. Static. Command, do you read? Our long-range comms are down. They've taken the array. More static. Then a new voice, cold and precise, not from their network. This is Director Kiesza of the Light. Your command is currently indisposed, dealing with multiple self-inflicted strategic blunders across this city. Your options are limited. Surrender, and perhaps you'll live to see a less chaotic dawn. Resist, and you will be systematically dismantled. The Remnant Commander looked at his depleted forces, the smoking ruins of their command center. Their grand plan to reclaim San Francisco, to assert Legion dominance, was crumbling block by block, not just from external attack, but from the sheer, overwhelming chaos of Operation Block Party. Their 3 deployed hunter-killer teams were now isolated, fighting their own desperate battles in a city that had become a free-for-all. The turf war was eating its own. Chapter 14, Scarred Dawn, the Cleanup Crew of Consciousness. Perspective, Kiesza. The silence in the Point's command center was, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, not pregnant with impending doom, but heavy with exhaustion and the metallic tang of expended energy. Bass and Trouble had finally been driven back, not by overwhelming force, but by a desperate, coordinated defense. Kiesza's rainbow flow, strained to its limit, had managed to create enough harmonic dissonance to disrupt their quantum sonics. Wildcard, in a stroke of chaotic genius, had managed to convince a large, structurally unsound portion of the ceiling that it had always wanted to be closer to Bass's head. It wasn't elegant, but it was effective. They'd retreated, vowing retribution, but they were, for now, gone. Blade and Fang, roused by the immediate threat and running on fumes and sheer stubbornness, had contributed brief, violent bursts of their still unstable fused power before collapsing again. They were now properly sedated and under intensive care by Dr. Reed, who had returned with the victorious, if battered, combined Bravo Charlie force from Dogpatch. The reports were in. Team Bravo and Charlie, united, had broken the SCAR Genesis Legion's primary nest in Dogpatch. Titan was dust. Wraith, if it had been present, had slipped away in the chaos, but the Legion's hold on that sector was shattered. They were now a scattered, disorganized threat, no longer a cohesive army. Casualties were manageable, thanks to Dr. Reed and Sterling's resilience. Lyricannon was already composing a highly embellished, and likely very loud, ballad of their victory. Samson, characteristically, had simply requested a whetstone and a quiet corner. Team Alpha's unconventional assault on Twin Peaks had succeeded beyond my expectations. The Court of Contradiction's primary weapon was offline, its core members disoriented, and their stronghold now a contested zone between them and the equally confused Legion Remnant assault team still there. Their ability to project widespread paradoxical effects across the city was severely curtailed. Al Finch was requesting permission to catalog the resultant ontological debris. Denied, for now. The Legion remnants were in disarray. Their Presidio base was under Lyricannon's new management. Their 3 deployed hunter-killer teams were now cut off, fighting for their own survival in a city that had turned on everyone. Operation Block Party, I mused, looking at the tactical display. The angry red zones of factional control were now fractured, bleeding into each other, replaced by a messy, chaotic patchwork of smaller skirmishes and pockets of volatile energy. The major turf war was over. The organized threat of these 3 dominant factions had been broken. It was not a clean victory. San Francisco was still a scarred, bleeding wound. The miasma lingered. Countless minor threats, newly empowered flow users, and desperate survivors turned savages still roamed the ruins. The SCAR Genesis itself, the underlying corruption of the flow, was far from healed. Blade and Fang's new power was a wild card of immense potential and terrifying instability. It needed to be understood, controlled if possible. The pet paradox Blade had acquired was currently trying to teach Wildcard how to simultaneously exist in 5 different card games. But we had a foothold. The point was secure, for now. We had disrupted the major players, created breathing room. The data, the samples, the sheer volume of new flow phenomena observed. It was invaluable. Lyricannon swaggered into the command center, slinging her sonic rig onto a console. So, K-Boss, Block Party was a rager, huh? What's next on the agenda? World peace? Or just trying to find some decent coffee in this post-apocalyptic hellscape? I allowed myself the smallest of smiles. Coffee, Lyricannon, definitely coffee. And then we begin the arduous process of cleaning up this city, one SCAR at a time. The turf war is over. The work of the light, however, has just begun. The SCAR dawn was breaking over San Francisco. It wasn't pretty, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like we weren't just reacting to the darkness, but actively, if messily, pushing it back. The cost had been high, and the path ahead was uncertain, but the city and its unlikely new guardians had survived the night. Chapter 15. Echoes in the Ash, the price of the party. Perspective, Kiesza, Director of the Light. The immediate cacophony of Operation Block Party had subsided, replaced by a different kind of noise. The weary hum of generators at the point, the distant crackle of still uncontained energy burst across San Francisco, and the low murmur of operatives debriefing, tending to wounds both seen and unseen. The city was quieter, yes, but it was the quiet of a patient in critical condition. The fever broken, but the infection still festering deep within. San Francisco was no longer a neatly divided chessboard of warring factions. We had shattered their organized control. The Court of Contradictions, after Team Alpha's unique intervention at Twin Peaks, was now a localized outbreak of ontological confusion rather than a citywide threat. Al Finch was, against my better judgment, attempting to interview the paradoxical shard Blade had acquired. The Legion remnants, their Presidio base now serving as Team Charlie's forward operating post, were scattered, their high-tech aspirations reduced to isolated skirmishes. The SCAR Genesis Legion, after the combined might of Teams Bravo and Charlie dismantled their primary nest in the dog patch, was now a dispersed collection of mutated horrors, more feral beasts than organized army. The turf war was over. The victory, however, was etched in scar tissue. My primary concern now was the status of our own forces. Blade and Fang were confined to the med bay, their recovery slow and taxing. The twin demon flow, as Lyricannon insisted on calling their symbiotic power surge, had left them utterly depleted. Dr. Reed's reports indicated their core energy systems were stable, but exhibited signs of an unstable fusion. Studying this phenomenon, understanding its triggers and its cost, was now a top research priority. Their raw power was undeniable, but such uncontrolled variables were a liability I could ill afford. Team Bravo, led by Samson, was currently engaged in pacification efforts within the dog patch. The Titan was gone, but scattered elements of the SCAR Genesis Legion still posed a significant threat. Sterling was recovering from his psychic feedback, and Ronin Sato was, according to Samson's typically understated reports, proving adept at identifying and neutralizing pockets of opportunistic leadership among the remaining mutants. Lyra Lix continued to provide invaluable portal support for their cleanup operations. Lyricannon's Team Charlie, having secured the Presidio, was now a beacon, albeit a very loud and sarcastic one, of light influence in that sector. Eris Thorne was meticulously cataloging captured Legion remnant databanks, his linguistic skills unearthing caches of their surprisingly sophisticated recent history and technological advancements. Kronos, an enigma as always, was observing the temporal echoes of the recent battles, his presence a silent, unsettling reminder of the deeper currents at play. The point itself was adapting. Kiesza's rainbow flow was a constant, soothing present, helping to cleanse the lingering psychic taint from Bass and Treble's assault. Wildcard had, alarmingly, started to refer to the captured paradoxical shard as Blinky, and was attempting to teach it how to rig our probability-based threat assessment algorithms. This was an experiment I would need to monitor very closely. The strategic gains were undeniable. We had breathing room, we had intelligence, we had new, if terrifyingly unstable, data points on flow mutation and symbiotic power. The objective of Operation Block Party, to disrupt the factional stranglehold on this city, had been achieved, but the city itself remained a deeply scarred entity. The miasma still clung to the low-lying areas, a visible manifestation of the SCAR Genesis's corruption. New, smaller bands of opportunists, mutated scavengers, and flow-addled cultists were already emerging from the ruins, drawn to the power vacuum like carrion birds. And the significant threats remained. Bass and Treble were still at large. Wraith, if Wildcard's senses were accurate regarding the dogpatch engagement, had likely evaded Samson's forces. These were commanders without armies, perhaps, but their individual power was considerable. The path forward was complex. Consolidation of our existing footholds was paramount. The analysis of Blade and Fang's condition and the Blinky entity would require dedicated resources. The whispers of survivor enclaves, hidden in the city's ruins, needed investigation. They could be potential allies or further complications. The turf war had been a brutal, necessary conflagration. Now came the painstaking work of sifting through the ashes, of trying to nurture what little stability we had bought ourselves, of preparing for the inevitable next wave. San Francisco was a shattered mirror, reflecting 1,000 broken realities. Our task was to find the pieces that could still reflect the light, however faint. The block party was over. The long, arduous cleanup had just begun. All right, mic check. 1, 2. Is this thing on? Yo, Frisco, you've been a real piece of work, but the first leg of this Operation Block Party World Tour is officially a wrap. Or, at least this particular violently dysfunctional mixtape has hit its final track. So for all you suckers still standing, and for those who took a dirt nap midway through the set, your girl Lyricannon is here to drop the official end credits on this whole damn turf war telenovela. Put your hands together, or what's left of them. Scarred City Turf War, the official Frisco Freak Show finale. Yeah, I'm calling it that, Sumi. Starring the headliners, the bruisers, the certified badasses. Yours truly, Lyricannon, the supersonic mouth from the South. Brooklyn, on lead vocals, devastating sonic solos, and keeping these knuckleheads mostly pointing in the right direction. You're welcome, Frisco. My ears are still ringing. The Obsidian Blade, Mr. Moody and Magnificent. For services to brooding, dramatic entrances, and that one time he and Fang went full Demon Love Power Hour and saved our collective bacon. Seriously, dude. Therapy. But also, nice light show. Shadow Fang, The Quiet Storm, now with extra Oni. For proving that still waters run deep, and sometimes turn into a raging crimson demon that eats bad guys for breakfast. Girls got layers. And claws. Black Samson, the samurai zen master of whoop-ass. For being the calm in the chaos, the sword in the darkness, and for somehow not losing his damn mind teaching me ancient warrior proverbs while everything exploded. Respect, big guy. Co-starring the backup brigade who didn't entirely suck. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the Pacha Princess, for running around plugging holes in us leaky meat bags with good vibes and fancy light tech. Girl deserves a vacation. On a planet with no pointy things. Rensato, the light's resident wirehead, not to be confused with the other one, for being surprisingly useful with gadgets and not screaming too loud when things got hairy. Keep working on that battle cry, kid. Kiesza, the Rainbow Bride of Righteousness, for holding down the point with more grace and colorful energy blasts than a unicorn at a rave. Seriously, that rainbow flow is pretty. Wild card. The probability perp and snack fiend, for generally making things weirder, occasionally helpful, and for trying to teach a paradox how to count cards. You're a mess, kid, but you're our mess. Alasdair Alfinch, professor of perpendicular piss-offs, for seeing the beauty in walls that scream and angles that lie. Your brand of crazy fit right in, my dude. Tempest, the guardian spark plug, for bringing the temporal thunder and having an unhealthy obsession with things going boom. Less temporal tantrums next time? Maybe. Nah, who am I kidding? Jackson, the keeper of Are We Done Yet? For being the stoic rock of nope in a sea of ah. Your deadpan saved my sanity at least twice, Zer. Dr. Eris Thorne, the walking thesaurus of terror, for his dedication to deciphering my slang and enemy battle cries with equal academic rigor. You get a star doc, and maybe a helmet. Kronos, the timeless enigma who probably invented dirt. For being Kronos. Still ain't sure what your deal is, big guy. But your timing is impeccable, gotta give you that. Marcus, Mark Sterling, the human force field, for taking those psychic hits like a champ. Next round of brain bleach is on me. Ronan Sato, the outcast formerly known as Trouble Magnet, for trying to sweet-talk monsters and acquire shiny things in the middle of a firefight. You're a scumbag, Sato, but you're a useful scumbag. Lyra, LYX, Portal Pixie of questionable destinations, for bouncing around like a caffeinated hummingbird and ripping holes in reality when we needed them most. Just try to aim away from the lava next time, sweetie. Special guest appearances by the Pain in the Ass Brigade, May I, and the Court of Contradictions, the Reality Revisionists, for turning Twin Peaks into AMC Escher painting on bad acid, and for introducing us to the joys of ontological weaponry. You guys are exhausting. The Scar Genesis Legion, Mutant Mayhem Tour 2025, featuring Titan, the big, ugly, and now very deceased one, Wraith, the no-show ninja of negativity, and a whole lot of cannon fodder that Blade and Fang turned into modern art. Thanks for the target practice. The Legion Remnants, the upgraded Antiques Roadshow, starring Circuit Face, the techno-organic flow user who got unplugged, and his army of surprisingly well-armed stormtroopers. Nice try, Gramps. Bass and treble, the quantum crap weasels, for almost making my eardrums explode and for proving that even cosmic-powered bullies know when to skedaddle. We'll catch ya on the B-side, losers. The undead drag queen gang, deceased but still fabulous, for their lessons in weaponized shade and for proving that not even death can kill a good sequin. Rest in pieces, divas. Blinky the paradoxical shard, Blade Souvenir and Wildcard's new BFF, for just generally being a confusing little pain in the whatever passes for its anatomy. Directed by Kiesza, the queen of questionable plans and impeccable poise. Written by a whole lot of bad luck, worse decisions, and the SCAR Genesis trying to be poetic. Soundtrack by my beautiful booming sonic rig, the screams of the dying, and Blade's internal angst. Special effects by the Court of Contradictions, the SCAR Genesis, and whatever the hell Blade and Fang were cooking up. Catering by stale protein bars and desperation. Filmed on location in beautiful, sunny, actively trying to kill us San Francisco. This whole damn mess was made possible by the letter F for Fubar and Flow, the number 0 for our remaining sanity, and a generous grant from the We're All Gonna Die Screaming Foundation. Alright, that's a wrap, people. The turf war is over, for now. But this city still got more scars than a hardcore punk convention. So rest up, reload, and get ready for the sequel. 'Cause you know the universe ain't done messing with us yet. Lyricannon,